I thought I would start with the beginning, the prologue of the book, which I hope does a fair job of telling you what it's going to try to do and say. And I found for the epigraph of the book this bit of a poem by Walt Whitman, To a Certain Cantatrice. He writes, "Here, take this gift. I was reserving it for some hero, speaker, or general, one who should serve the good old cause, the great idea, the progress and freedom of the race, some brave confronter of despots, some daring rebel. But I see that what I was reserving belongs to you just as much as to him." Prologue. San Juan Hill is a steep ridge with a crest so narrow that in many places the difference between climbing up and starting downhill is just a single step. Tall, abrupt, it offers a hell of a view, though the panorama is broken up by unruly flowering trees and run-down apartment blocks. In the north, clouds pile up against a steep mountain wall separating the city of Santiago from the rest of the island of Cuba, which stretches northwest for hundreds of miles without quite reaching the Florida Keys. To the south, a wall of lesser mountains screens the Caribbean Sea, but I can taste salt in the wind. East is a plain carpeted with jungle scrub, tilled fields, and hectic clusters of cement block houses. And when I turn west, toward the lowering sun, lesser ridges fall away like echoes, carrying the city of red tile roofs down to a great bay. It's the kind of cityscape that could be an artwork in itself, like famous views of Florence or Siena. But Santiago de Cuba is no museum town primped and groomed by money and fame. Fine old mansions and church towers dignify this view, but everywhere there's evidence of gross decay and disrepair, of scabby whitewash and fallen facades. Run-down factories, hospitals, and apartment towers loom like modernist wrecks run aground in a sea of antique tile. Real ships cross slate-lace, slate-blue Santiago Bay, rusty freighters headed for the container port or smoky industrial plants on the far shore in the stretching shadow of the Sierra Maestra Mountains. Santiago can't afford to be as pretty as she really is. A beauty down on her luck, Santiago is the capital of old Oriente Province, one of the world's most storied regions, home to Cuba's most revered spiritual, cultural, and revolutionary traditions. From its hidden Afro-Cuban religions to the hideouts of Fidel Castro's guerrilla army, the history of Oriente Province is fabulously rich in suffering, hope, and defiance. Made over by prosperity, this crumbling city would ravish our eyes. In her workaday travail, she wounds our hearts. San Juan Hill is studded with obsolete cannon and heroic statues, reminding me that even the most poignant landscape looks ominous through gun sights. Militarily, this ridge is the key to the defense of Santiago de Cuba. Any landward assault on the city has to win this ridge. The victors can direct artillery fire down onto the city below and the bay beyond, sinking any warships in the harbor or chasing them into the open sea. That's what happened here in the summer of 1898. The United States of America sent its armed forces on a crusade to avenge a spectacular act of terrorism and helped an oppressed people win freedom. Yankees remembered the battleship Maine's mysterious destruction in Havana Harbor by blaming Spain and invading her last great New World colony, Cuba. Joining forces with a Cuban rebel army that had been defying Spain for years, U.S. troops fought a brief war that began with the Marines landing at Guantanamo Bay, just 50 miles to the east of Santiago. The new base at Guantanamo supported a naval blockade that trapped the Spanish fleet in Santiago Bay, while the U.S. Army landed troops on the beaches of Daiquiri and Siboney, somnolent villages only 10 miles from here. Yankees and Cubans marched inland together, skirmishing with the Spanish rearguard at a crossroads called Las Guasimas. Their 37-day campaign climaxed with the U.S. Army's assault on the fortified village of El Caney and the storming of the eminence known locally as Las Lomas San Juan. No longer safe from land-based artillery, Spain's Atlantic fleet sortied from Santiago Bay to be annihilated by America's recently created world-class Navy. Defeated on land and at sea, the Spanish signed their surrender under a tree just a little ways downslope from here. Americans back home rejoiced only to find that the real war had just begun. Most Americans had understood this war of 1898 as a selfless quest, a mission of honor and mercy. But the nation's leaders turned the crusade for Cuba Libre, free Cuba, into a global land grab. The U.S. Expeditionary Force became an army of occupation. Former Spanish imperial possessions, Puerto Rico, Guam, the vast Philippine archipelago, became American colonies. Martial glory faded into years of counterinsurgency, profiteering scandals, torture, and massacres. The embarrassing war was willfully forgotten, along with its warning about the consequences of acting imperially. Not much escaped our deliberate amnesia. Ask an American today about 1898 and you're likely to recover just three names: the USS Maine, Theodore Roosevelt, San Juan Hill. I'm standing on San Juan Hill because a couple of those names figure amongst my earliest memories. When I was a little boy, my great-grandfather, Thomas O'Brien, told me he climbed this ridge as a rough rider, running along at Teddy Roosevelt's stirrup. Papa O'Brien was a 5-year-old's hero, and that was all I needed to know. But now, I need to understand what his war was really all about. I'm here in the last month of 2005 because 53 miles to the east, there's a Cuban bay that's been a U.S. naval base since 1898. Guantanamo is back in the news, this time as an international symbol of power unchecked by law, a synonym for torture. And I'm here because my stepson is standing guard behind a machine gun on the perimeter of an air base in Iraq. I'd like to understand why his war seems too damn familiar. I'm here because patriotism has begun to feel like grief. Back home, we Americans can't talk honestly about the wars we're fighting now, not without fighting each other. So I'm traveling across old battlefields, trying to connect our present to our past. The century-old tragedy memorialized in the park here on La Loma San Juan is familiar to almost every Santiaguero in the city below. They can name its heroes and villains, explain their motives and passions, quote the telling lines. They know all about that antique double cross because they live with the ongoing consequences. Yankees live with them too, of course, but few of us understand how what happened here transformed our nation. As the sun drops onto the spikes of the Sierra Maestra, I stand alongside a statue of a Yankee soldier. Geographically, San Juan Hill is a height of land, a watershed boundary. In a hard rain, drops that fall on one side of the statue, behind us, on the east side, toward the plain over which this soldier and his fellows marched to fight for Cuba Libre, will eventually trickle through the dirt lots around houses and shanties down to a creek that joins a little river, making its quiet way to the Caribbean Sea. However, raindrops that fall in front of us, on the Santiago side, will spill down through the city and pour into Santiago Bay. That's the prize for which this Bronze Yankees battle was fought. The capture of San Juan Hill drove the Spanish fleet from the bay and made us Cuba's masters. This narrow-spined ridge, with its bittersweet view, is the divide between one United States of America and another. La Loma San Juan is the hill we climbed as a republic and descended as an empire.